Hello there! I'm Brad Barton and welcome to 1.21 Geekawatts. It's another very exciting special episode because, ladies and gentlemen, sitting right next to me, author Chris Healy. Yay! Now, if you don't know that name yet, A, that's wrong. You should. And B, here's how you know him. Because Chris is the author of the Hero's Guide series, which began with Hero's Guide to, right, Saving Your Kingdom. There it is. We moved on to Storming the Castle. And brand spanking new is the Hero's Guide to Being an Outlaw. It's the final chapter of this magnificent trilogy, which is, although written for middle grade kids, is flat out hilarious. And I challenge anyone to read these books and get 3 pages without snickering, if not out and out laughing.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. That's all for today, everyone. Tell us, first of all, Chris, I know this, my household knows these stories really well, but the premise is basically we're learning about the Prince Charmings of fairy tales, right?
Yes, yeah. In so many fairy tales, there is a prince. There is a handsome, dashing prince who comes in usually at the very end to save the day. Often in the original tales, doesn't even have a name. And if he has some kind of name, he's sometimes referred to as a generic Prince Charming. We know nothing about these people. They often they have no personalities whatsoever because they were just plot devices. Mm-hmm. So for a long time, I wondered a lot about these characters, who they were, what made them tick. Asked myself very important questions about fairy tales, like looking at the original Rapunzel. Why didn't the guy just get a ladder? Seemed like it would have been a whole lot easier to get the girl down instead of climbing up into the prison where she was. Didn't make much sense. So there were things about that, the guy in Cinderella. Why does he send a servant out to find the girl of his dreams? Why can't he just go do that himself? There's something there that's just not right. I wanted to answer those questions. I wanted to give these guys real personalities and find out what happened to them afterwards. Because when I started answering questions about these guys and saying, like, oh, well, maybe the Cinderella guy is incredibly timid. Maybe he's shut in. He's never left his palace. Mm-hmm. The Rapunzel guy, maybe he's not very bright, and that's why he didn't get the ladder. I started realizing that these guys may not really be deserving of the happily ever afters that everyone assumed they had. And so I wanted to kind of look beyond the end of those stories and see what really happened to these guys.
So much of it, in a way, is, or the plot twists or whatnot, or their personality and motivations are sort of driven by those moments when you read the fairy tales that are like, that doesn't make a lick of sense.
Doesn't make a lot of sense.
That guy would do
there's
this.
A lot in there. Yeah.
Which is fantastic, and I really love, in a way, that even just that, and sort of taking a closer look at them, that like love triangles erupt, and it turns out that maybe the Prince Charming of this story is really much better suited to being with this princess and vice versa.
Yeah, there's a lot of, in the books, there is a lot of questioning of this whole kind of fairy tale idea of true love's kiss. Only true love's kiss could have broken the spell that had Sleeping Beauty put to sleep. And Snow White, both of them, true love, the person who never met them before. This is the first time you've ever seen this person in your life, and she is asleep. How could she possibly be your true love? So there's some questioning there.
And in some cases, some of those princesses are just flat out evil, almost. Or I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't put her in a box.
Good and evil. Yeah, there's a lot of who is good and who is evil. There's a lot of question there.
Yeah.
What is good and what is bad, right and wrong. I mean, obviously there's a right and wrong, but people can change too.
Right.
Is kind of the thing, and it's not just the princes in the stories that I've switched around. The princesses also are not what you expect. They're probably not the versions that you expect to see here. Cinderella is in my mind. I always looked at Cinderella as she was a character who was forced to work hard labor her entire life. She had a terrible, very, she was kept away, practically captive throughout most of her life. When she has that chance to be free, she is going to want to really explore the world. She's going to want adventure and action, and all the hard labor made her strong.
Yes,
she's
very tough, right?
She is a tough woman.
She's usually the one sweeping in to save the day in more than a few cases.
Yeah. So she is a very different and not quite perhaps the ideal match for the dainty dancer of a Prince Charming who is the one who marries her, or saves her from the from the Wicked Step family to begin with.
Yeah, when book one came out, when Saving the Kingdom came out, the culturally almost in movies and television, we were just sort of beginning this like diving into Once Upon a Time, and
Snow White and the Huntsman came out right around that same time
exactly.
there too.
Which means so you were either psychic that you knew this was coming, or
or just had an incredibly good sense of the market.
That's what it is.
I studied media and children's media especially. I mean, I actually was reviewing children's books for a long time, so I did see a lot of what was coming out, so the direction things were going, and I didn't know for sure if fairy tales were about to explode, but I did have a bit of a sense that maybe things were heading that way.
Yeah. And we shouldn't just say that this is just about the princesses and the princes that they're attached to. You play with so many fantastic tropes, not only of fairy tales, but of fantasy, and flip them on their head, and usually with the most fantastically hilarious titles in the world.
I really liked what somebody said recently about the books in reviewing the third book. They who said that The Hero's Guide might have been a series that started in fairy tales, but it ended up being a series that kind of waved a passing hello to fairy tales on its way to someplace else,
yeah.
which is really where it was to me. I grew up on fantasy just in general, the Lord of the Rings and much more high fantasy stuff, and so this. While the fairy tales is where this all begins, it kind of goes into all the fantasy tropes that I've loved for so long and plays with them in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, yeah. If you're a fan of twisty, labyrinthine, but still so accessible and so funny stories along these lines, then do yourself a favor. Hero's Guide series is out there, and of course, the latest being Hero's Guide to Being an Outlaw. And, get on the bandwagon now so that someday when this movie comes out, maybe, is it in development at a studio right now? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Is it going to happen? My fingers are crossed. Yeah, that's right.
Mine are perpetually crossed.
Way more than mine, even. Thank you, Chris. This is awesome. I really appreciate it. And do yourselves a favor, folks. Pick those out. That's all for today's 1.21 Geekawatts. I'll see you later on. Bye-bye.